are back to work on our Yamaha JOG, and as you see, we have all the panels stripped off now. So we got this thing down to its bare frame, and we have the motor over here fully assembled. So last time we threw the engine together and we got an air leak down tested, and we figured out that everything was good on the JOG and it's pretty much ready to go. We're waiting on some gears to come in, throw the gears in, and we can throw everything else on. But we have some things we need to do to our actual scooter before we throw the motor in. Where the carb sits on these with the big boy carbs on, we're not going to be running the air box. We're going to need an air filter, and the carb basically runs into the back of here. So we're going to trim this up a little bit, bring it up to about here, and then I think we're going to weld this in just for some added support. That's what we're going with here. So we're going to check into some of that. Also, we have a kickstand to throw on, so we're going to have to trim out this plastic right here, figure out where that's all going to be mounting. From what I'm seeing, this is how the kickstand mounts up, and it's kind of a weird one, but it goes up to this point and then down to here, and that's how it kind of goes. But the floor protruding little part that goes in to that hole, and that's actually like the locking point of this floorboard. So it's going to be sitting on top of that bolt now. So what I'm going to do is basically just Dremel that piece off. That way this stepped out part right here will still sit flush onto here, and then it should clear that bolt, and then we'll tighten that all up. And then also we're going to Dremel out this plastic because I believe we got to cut away some of this so it clears for the kickstand. Like I suspected, we had to cut away that notch, so we pulled out our Dremel. We got that little notch cut out, and we were able to Dremel away just a little bit of plastic on the ledge, and it sat perfectly flush over the kickstand. Then we went ahead and cut away a little bit of the belly pan to fit the kickstand and trimmed out the area for our carb. So as you saw, we had a hole there, so we pulled out the welder, and we're going to fill in that hole only because where the gusset is, the metal is actually bent for reinforcement there, and we cut away that bend. So to prevent the crack from happening and going through that hole right there at a weak point, we just filled that in with some weld, grinded away that weld so it didn't look too obvious. As you can see, we threw the motor in, boys. We got it sitting pretty on the stage 6 stand right now. We threw on the mount for that on the stock shock. We're still going to upgrade the shock later, but we went ahead and finished, as you saw, cutting out the gusset here on the frame. So what I did was I cut that, and then I welded in the hole right here just to prevent, since we got rid of this bend right here, the structural bend, we filled in this extra hole just so we didn't get a crack through here. So that way it's at least solid in this area, and then we painted it, obviously grinded down everything. And now, as you can see, we'll be able to fit an air filter through here. Before, the carbs were smaller, and the airbox had a 90 going down, and the airbox is like right here. So you really don't have room to run an aftermarket carb with an aftermarket filter unless you do this. So we went ahead, modded that on the frame. We threw in our air shrouds, a new spark plug boot, and our temp sensor. So now we got our temp sensor running to here, which we will then run up to the handlebars, mount somewhere on the headset, which we got right here. We also got a new throttle cable to throw in, since the stock one, I believe on these, is one piece here, so I don't think it has the threaded tip on it. So we have another throttle cable to throw in, so we're going to strip this handlebar set down and get that ready. I do have all the pieces for a JDM set coming in the mail. I really wish I can just throw it all on right now, but it looks like we're going to have to wait till later to add some more parts to this JOG. We finished up our kickstand situation. I thought I was going to have to weld a stopping point onto here like I usually do because it hits the kicker case, but it looks like this is plenty clear here on the JOG. Let's work on running the throttle cable and the temp sensor, and then pretty much the exhaust, and we should be able to fire this thing up. Started stripping down the headset that I cannot wait to change to the JDM style headset. It looks so much better, and I went ahead and I ordered all the parts for the JDM headset, since you can order most of those parts new. Just the only thing I need is the actual physical handlebars, because they are different on the different models. So we worked on that. We got our throttle cable thrown in all the way down to the carb and got our headset reassembled. So we went ahead and slapped most of the other pieces on, the floorboard, the kicker panel, and kind of got all that fitted. I had to get used to how the JOG lines up because it's been a while since I took it apart, and that was only my first time taking it apart, a JOG. So we worked on slapping that all together, put some new dress-up bolts in it, and of course this little hidden away bolt that holds on the front panel to the kicker panel, I guess you'd say. I thought it was pretty cool, but it's right behind a little Yamaha badge. Took me a second to find. Alright, we got most of the JOG thrown together. I tossed the seat on, that way I could put the battery in, because the battery box is actually in the seat bucket on this one. Kind of interesting, but slapped that back in, slapped the battery back in, wired everything up, hooked our grounds up from the harness to where the starter used to be. We ordered a air filter, so we can slide an air filter in here. We're getting one with like a 90 drop, so the air filter kind of pods down here. Kickstand looks good, looks like everything fits there. We got all our plastic thrown back on here, and we got our temp gauge mounted right over there. So throttle cables feels really good with the new cable and everything in there. Threw some little dress up bolts up here up front, and man, I can't wait to get the other headset on here. But ran some fuel line. What else did we do? We ran some fuel line. We threw in a fuel filter. Usually the stock petcock routes and right here, mounts right here. I'm going to be mounting a fuel shutoff valve and just probably zip tie it up to there. And then I have an inline filter here. I want to run a free flow without the petcock. So we're going a manual shutoff valve, and then we have an inline filter here since it looks like there's no filter on the tank here. It's just a little spigot. You can't really see it, but it's a little spigot straight off the tank into the line there. So there's no in-tank filter on this one. We did get a new exhaust for this thing, and we have to do some work on that exhaust, and I'll show you guys in a second, but we need to de-restrict it. We went ahead and grabbed ourselves a Yasuni City 16, which is very similar to the C16. It's just, in my understanding, this is a street legal pipe, and it's a little bit more stubby. So it comes with restrictors in that pipe, and we were going to go ahead and remove those. So the first thing we had to do was take apart the silencer and of course undo all the packing on there. Then there is a little restrictor on the back end where the pipe meets the silencer. So we went ahead and cut that out using a Dremel and got that little piece popped off. Then we worked on the actual pipe, but I didn't realize the camera angle was terrible, so let's just get through this. All right, we have got our restrictors removed. So this is the big one that came out of the silencer here, and that goes in the garbage. And then we have the one that actually came out of the header of the pipe, and that goes in the garbage. Now we are ready to reassemble our silencer, re-put the packing on, and throw everything back together. So let's get this thing rebuilt. We started with just that, repacking the silencer, throwing all the fiberglass on, which is a messy job and it gets everywhere. So cleaned up all that and made sure you wear gloves at that because you do not want to mess around with the fiberglass packing on there. So we ran some Honda Bond on the gasket that goes on the back of the silencer, of course, because they're prone to leak there, and got our pipe, went ahead and mounted everything up for that. I was pretty concerned about how vertical this pipe goes because I feel like it's going to rub on the side skirt a lot, and that's just what we figured out later on. But there's no way around it, so we're going to have to worry about getting a taller shock or a stiffer shock should help with that because it just sits a little bit too low, especially when I'm on it. We pulled out all the new goods that were thrown in on the CVT, so we got a stage 6 clutch belt and a Polini clutch. We have the Polini 3G adjustable clutch with an S23 medium 1500 RPM contra spring. So we went ahead and slapped that on with the rear pulley, put in a Melosi multivar kit. That's all I had at the moment. I will probably end up getting a stage 6 one, but for the moment we're running Melosi, and we threw on a fresh belt, got that thrown together. And of course what we had to do next was pre-mix some gas and get this thing ready for its first fire up, boys. As you can see, we got the jog thrown back together, so we got everything back on the jog. Beat the new pipe. Suni's on there, everything's ready to go, and this thing is an absolute ripper. We still have a lot to do, but she's ready. She's a little heavy on the rollers right now, but we got a lot to tune once we get the gears in, so it's just test run. This thing is absolutely rips. No way this thing sits so low right now. This exhaust just scraped the ground when I turn. Look at that. Look at that. This thing sits so low. And then it's hitting back here too. Alright boys, I gotta take you on a little ride with the GoPro, but we are not even close to tuning this bike. I literally have it exactly the setup I thrown in with 3 6-gram rollers and 3 4-gram rollers, I believe it was. But we did not do the gear change because they still have not shown up in the mail. So I don't want to tune it to how it's set up right now when I know for sure I'm changing the gears. Right now these gears are just insane. Right now the gears on this thing are just way too short. It's insanely torquey, but we're going to be changing the gears, and I don't want to do the tuning twice. The gears should be here tomorrow, but I want to get this video out for you guys and show the process of finishing this thing and getting it running. This thing is insane, bro. These small scooters, having this exact engine setup in the F12 compared to here is just insane. Like literally we're going 20 cruising and not even pulling back that front wheel. This thing, even with the stock gears, is definitely hitting like 70 right now. It is so hard to keep this front wheel down. We'll take off a little nice and then... Oh. Jesus! That's 50 already. Oh my god, and that's just bouncing off the throttle, keeping that front wheel down. 20 and 30. 40. That's gotta be 50. We lost track of the speedo, boys. Oh my god. Alright, we'll give you guys a little tease right here, but we still got more work to do on this thing before we go ripping it. So, and this cylinder's already broken in. We had this and everything on the F12, so don't worry about that. We're cruising at 30, 40. That's gotta be 50. We're like 60. Insane for stock gears. 15. Dude, this shock is rough. Oh my god. Oh yeah, we're running out of gear right there. Okay, this thing's got to be doing like 65, 70 already with stock gears. 40 miles per hour just like that. It's staying cool too. We just hit 300 and we're on it. Oh yeah, I can't wait to get this thing tuned. Wow, boys, I am stoked on the JOG. Absolute ripper. That is gonna do it for the Yamaha JOG today. We got this thing absolutely ripping, and it's insane. Having a small scooter this fast and this much torque is honestly not my favorite. This thing will definitely not be one of my favorite scooters to ride because it is just insane. I like having the bigger scooters be the fast ones and the little scooters be the stunters, but it's always cool to make a scooter very, very fast, and this thing is just absolutely ripping. I can't wait to put the gears in it and get it more consistent and more solid, because right now it's just crack the throttle, that front wheel's coming up, but it's pulling. It's definitely hitting close to that 70 mile per hour mark, and when we get those gears in there, I feel like we're going to see way over 70 miles per hour on this. With the Stage 6 racing cylinder and brand new crank and everything we put in there, this thing is just a monster. So we got a few things to figure out. Like I mentioned, the pipe, it's hitting pretty bad here on the skirt, and it's already kind of damaging the skirt, and it hits the ground when I turn down there. So we definitely need a taller shock and a few other things to make this thing dialed in. But the Yamaha JOG is no joke, boys. That's gonna do it for this one. Make sure you guys slap a thumbs up on this video, subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know what you think about the Yamaha JOG, and I'll see you guys in the next one.